The last train from London Street Pancras to Leeds departed at 23:27 on a rain-smeared Thursday in mid-November. It was not one of the sleek new Azuma sets, but the older, heavier Intercity 125 that had somehow survived the rolling stock cull. Carriages painted in fading red and gray, doors that still required manual handles, seats upholstered in the same worn blue fabric they had been fitted with in the late 1980s. Passengers called it the ghost train because it always ran half empty, even on Fridays. Tonight, there were 37 people spread across 7 coaches. Seat D47, window facing forward, reserved in the name of L. Harrow, was occupied from the moment the brakes released. No one named L. Harrow had scanned a ticket at the barrier. The woman in D47 wore a charcoal overcoat buttoned to the throat, collar turned up against a cold that existed only inside her. Her hair was cut to a sharp bob, dyed the color of wet slate. She kept her hands folded in her lap, fingers interlaced, thumbs tracing slow, endless circles. She had boarded last, slipping through the gate while the conductor was helping an elderly couple with their cases. She had said nothing beyond thank you when the train manager checked reservations. She had not touched the complimentary water bottle on the table. She had simply sat down, turned her face toward the black window, and waited. Her name was not L. Harrow. It was Cora Harrow. She was 35, 5'6" in the black boots she had not removed, 119 pounds after 4 days of almost nothing passing her lips. She had cut her hair 3 nights earlier in a cheap barber's near King's Cross, using cash and giving no name. She had left her phone in a litter bin outside the British Library. Screen shattered, SIM cards snapped in half. In the left pocket of the charcoal coat were 4 items: a folded 10-pound note, a half-empty packet of paracetamol, 1 spearmint chewing gum still in its foil wrapper, and a small cardboard rail ticket dated November 14, 2019, first class, seat D47, London Street Pancras to Leeds, in the name of Lydia Harrow. She had never traveled on that date. The ticket had belonged to her elder sister, Lydia, who vanished from this exact seat on the night of November 14, 2019. Lydia had boarded alone after a late meeting in London, reserved the seat because she needed quiet to work on her laptop, bought a black coffee from the trolley, spoken briefly to the conductor about the weather forecast, heavy rain all the way north, and then, somewhere between Hitchin and Peterborough, the seat became empty. The laptop was still open, screen showing an unfinished email. The coffee sat untouched, lid still on. The reservation card remained in its plastic holder. On the table lay 1 sheet of notepaper torn from Lydia's moleskine with 5 words written in her careful, forward slanting hand. I'm already on the next train. Network Rail searched for 19 days. They reviewed every camera angle from Street Pancras to Leeds. They interviewed every passenger who had been on board. No one had seen Lydia leave her seat. No one had seen her in the vestibule, the toilet, the buffet car. The CCTV in Coach D showed her sitting down at 23:32, adjusting her coat, opening her laptop. The footage ran on a loop for 3 hours and 27 minutes. Then the seat was empty. No door movement. No one passing in the aisle. The case was eventually marked missing presumed suicide and quietly closed. Cora kept the ticket because it was the last thing Lydia had bought. She kept it in the same envelope as the condolence cards she had never acknowledged. Tonight she intended to return it. She had no concrete plan beyond reaching Leeds, walking the short distance to the taxi rank, taking a cab to the same hotel Lydia had booked for the following morning, sitting on the same bed, and waiting to see what would happen. If nothing happened, she would leave the ticket on the pillow and walk into the river Aire until the current carried her under. If something did happen, well, she had stopped trying to script that part long ago. The train cleared the tunnels north of King's Cross and settled into its familiar 4-beat rhythm. Rain streaked the windows in long diagonal lines. The carriage lights dimmed to a soft amber after Stevenage. Most passengers were already asleep or wearing headphones. Cora sat motionless, listening to the clatter of bogies over joints, the occasional metallic groan as the train flexed through points. A soft knock sounded on the table in front of her. She did not look up. The knock came again, polite, measured. "Train manager. Just checking reservations, madam." Cora remained still. The man who appeared beside her seat was in his late 50s. Navy uniform jacket buttoned, name badge reading James, senior conductor. He had the calm, slightly tired face of someone who had spent 32 years walking train aisles, calming drunks, reassuring anxious passengers, and quietly noting things that never made it into official reports. In his left hand, he held a small electronic ticket reader. In his right, a folded piece of card. He looked at the reservation label. He looked at Cora. He gave the small, knowing smile of a man who has already read the ending. "Evening," he said. "I'm James. You're in seat D47. Cora's thumbs stopped circling. "Yes," she said. James sat down in the empty seat opposite without asking permission. The table between them was narrow enough that their knees almost touched. "The reservation is for L. Harrow," he said. "But you're not L. Harrow. You're Cora Harrow, younger sister, from Leeds originally, moved to London after the disappearance. Left your flat 6 days ago. Left your phone in a bin outside King's Cross. Bought tonight's ticket in cash at the self-service machine using an old rail card that expired in 2017. You're not traveling for business or pleasure. You're trying to pick up where Lydia left off." Cora felt the carriage seem to contract around her. "How do you know my name?" James tapped the ticket reader. "I know everyone who boards this service," he said. "Been doing it since 2003. Started as ordinary conductor. In 2019, they created a new role. Very quiet, very small. They called it Journey Continuity. My job is to walk the train after departure, check every reserved seat, make sure the right people are sitting in them, or make sure the wrong people aren't." He placed the folded card on the table between them. "Lydia was in this exact seat the night she disappeared," he continued. "I checked her ticket myself. She looked like you. Same eyes, same way of holding her hands. She thanked me, said the train was quieter than usual. Then she went back to her laptop. When I did my 1:30 sweep, the seat was empty. Laptop still open. Coffee still warm. Reservation card still in the holder. But Lydia was gone." He reached into his jacket pocket and produced an identical cardboard ticket. Same date, same train, same seat, same name. "She left it for me," he said. "Or the train left it for me. I've carried it ever since." Cora stared at the ticket in his hand. "Why?" "Because this service remembers," James said. "Every passenger, every seat, every name on every reservation. When someone leaves something behind, a ticket, a note, a hair caught in the headrest, the train keeps it. And when the conditions are right, certain rain, certain timetable slot, certain number of souls on board, it uses that remnant to summon someone else. Someone who can complete what the first person started." He opened the ticket reader and turned it so she could see the screen. A list scrolled upward. November 14th, 2019, Lydia Harrow, seat D47, St. Pancras, Leeds. Disappeared. Ticket left on table. January 23rd, 2020, female, mid-30s, seat C22. Disappeared between Grantham and Retford. May 18th, 2020, female, seat D47 again. Left a note. "Tell my sister I waited." September 9th, 2020, female, seat E19. Never reached Leeds. February 14th, 2021, female, seat D47. Same coat, same ticket. The entries continued. 34 names in 6 years. All women, all mid-30s, all traveling alone, all leaving something behind. And now you, James said. November 2025. Seat D47. Cora Harrow, sister of Lydia. Same coat, same ticket in the pocket, same route, same intention. Cora's voice was barely audible over the wheel noise. What happens when we reach Leeds? If you get off, James said. Nothing dramatic. You walk through the ticket barrier. You take a taxi. You tell yourself you tried. The dreams might fade after a year or two. If you're unlucky, you'll find yourself buying another ticket in 6 months. Same train, same seat. The pattern repeats. The train lurched slightly as it crossed a set of points outside Hitchin. Rain hammered the window in sudden flurries. If you stay in the seat, he continued, the train decides. It's been doing this since the mid-1990s, longer than I've worked this route. Every few months it takes someone. Sometimes it returns someone different, quieter, but alive. It always balances the books. 1 in, 1 out, or 2 in, none out. Depends on how much memory it needs to carry. The carriage lights flickered once as the train entered a long cutting. James stood. I have to check the rest of Coach D, he said. Make sure no one else is in the wrong seat tonight. When I come back, you need to choose. Disembark in Leeds and carry the not knowing for the rest of your days. Or stay here and face whatever is waiting when the doors open at the other end. He looked at her steadily. I'll be back before Doncaster, he said. Think carefully. He walked away down the aisle. Cora sat alone. She took the ticket from her pocket and laid it beside James's ticket on the table. They lay side by side like two halves of a torn receipt. She stared at them until the print blurred. The train rolled on. Peterborough passed in a smear of sodium lights. Grantham came and went. Rain turned to sleet. She thought about Lydia's last text message, sent at 23:19 on November 14th, 2019. Train's quiet tonight. I'll be home tomorrow. Love you. Cora had replied with a thumbs-up emoji and gone back to scrolling. She thought about the British transport police officer who had sat in her living room and said, "Sometimes people just step off the map. Love. The railways don't always bring them back." She thought about the nights she had spent in Lydia's flat, wearing this coat, breathing in the last traces of her sister's perfume on the collar, pretending Lydia was just in the kitchen making tea. She picked up both tickets. She stood. She walked to the vestibule at the end of the coach. James was waiting beside the intercarriage door, leaning against the wall. "You've chosen," he said. It was not a question. "I want to see her," Cora said. He nodded once. "Then we go forward." He led her through the connecting doors, past sleeping passengers, past empty seats, into Coach C, then B, then A. The lighting grew dimmer with each carriage. The carpet became worn, then threadbare, then disappeared entirely, leaving bare metal floor. The windows darkened until they showed no reflection at all. At the front of Coach A was a door marked crew only, no access. James opened it with his key fob. Beyond was a corridor that should not have existed. It stretched forward, far longer than the length of the train, lined on both sides with identical seats. Every single one was D47. The upholstery was the same faded blue. The reservation cards all read L. Harrow. James stopped. "This is where my shift ends," he said. "I've done what was asked. The train needed a witness. That's all I've ever been." He held out Lydia's ticket. Cora took it. She walked down the corridor. The seats were identical. She passed one after another. In some, women sat waiting, some who looked exactly like Lydia, some who looked like Cora at different ages, some who looked like neither but carried the same tired posture, the same folded hands. At the end of the corridor stood one seat without a number. Above it, a small brass plate read, Seat D47, IC 125, 1S47, all journeys. She fitted the ticket into the slot on the seatback table, clicked home. The seat fabric warmed beneath her as she sat down. Lydia was already there, opposite her in the window seat. She wore the same clothes she had disappeared in. Her face was unchanged, but her eyes held decades. "You kept the ticket," Lydia said. Cora's throat closed. "I never threw anything away," she whispered. "I know," Lydia said. "I watched every police interview. Every night you sat in my flat wearing my coat. I saw you cut your hair. I saw you buy the ticket." She looked out through the window. Beyond the glass was darkness. Absolute, starless, horizonless. Yet Cora could see figures standing in lines. Every woman who had ever disappeared from this train, all facing inward, all waiting. Lydia turned back. "You can still leave," she said. "Walk back to Coach D. Get off in Leeds. The dreams will fade. Eventually." Cora leaned forward. "No," she said. "I'm staying." Lydia smiled. Small, sad, almost grateful. Then the journey continues. The train's rhythm changed. The lights dimmed to a faint red emergency glow. Cora felt the seat vibrate as though the entire formation had exhaled. Outside the window, the other women began to move forward, pressing close to the glass. Lydia reached across the table and placed a hand on Cora's wrist. "Welcome aboard," she said. The intercarriage door closed itself. The ticket slots locked. Above, in Coach D, the train arrived in Leeds at 2:19 as scheduled. The few remaining passengers disembarked. The conductor walked the length of the train, checking seats. Seat D47 was empty, laptop gone, coffee cup untouched. 2 cardboard tickets lay side by side on the table. James collected them, added them to the small bundle in his ticket wallet, and signed off duty. No one noticed the train sat a fraction heavier on its bogies for the empty return run to London. No one noticed the passenger manifest now carried 2 additional names, both assigned to seat D47. The 1S47 service left Leeds at 4:43 as scheduled. It would run again tomorrow, and the day after, and every day after that. The railways keep their debts. The train remembers everything. And far forward, in a carriage that exists only when needed, 2 sisters sit opposite each other, watching the endless dark through windows that look out onto every journey that has ever been and every journey still to come. They do not speak. They do not need to. The tickets are safe. The memory is carried. For now.